So here's my Foster's experiment, and actually things are going really well. So the first phase where you expect problems with the Fosters is the fighting when you first set them up with nest boxes, and believe me, we had that. And what ended up happening is one of the hens never went in her box. So I ended up moving her down here, and she is awaiting Foster chicks to hatch down here. Where'd she go? It's the yellow-faced pair. I wanted to, I put them down here because I wanted them to establish their bond before I put them back up here and put their nest box on here next time, in the hopes that I will get more of what I want. So what left 3 pairs in here. Then everything goes along, they feed babies, babies grow, it's all good. But then what happens is you get to the point where the females are getting ready to flip, which means they want to reset, even though their chicks are still in the nest. Now, in the wild, what they would do is go find a different nest. And the males stay and take care of the babies, and the females go back and forth and get bred and go and establish a new nest. But since we don't have a whole bunch of extra nests hanging on this box, and I don't want them to turn around and breed again immediately, what I have to do is run an end game on that. So what happens is, oftentimes, a hen will, since she can't find another nest box, she will reset in her own nest box and start laying eggs in there when there's still young babies in there that need care. Problem being that a lot of times the hens will attack the chicks to try and drive them out of the box so that she can reset. Again, we're putting them in this unnatural situation, so we're causing this problem. So some hens, on the other hand, will sit in there and just keep taking care of her own babies while she's sitting on new eggs and let the cock feed them and whatever. Other times a hen will block the cock from feeding the chicks. She gets jealous because she's gone into mating mode, and feeding is a part of the mating ritual for these birds. So she sees him feeding the babies and she thinks she's got rivals, and then she turns on the chicks. So all kinds of things can go wrong in this phase, and we are in this phase. So what I noticed yesterday was my yellow guy up here. I don't know if you can see him. His mate is the violet opaline. This is their box over here, and she had climbed into the box and was refusing to come out, and she was refusing to let him in. So she was blocking him. She may have also been protecting the box because the white recessive pied hen, who has very young chicks still over in that box, was spending a lot of time peering into her box, like, okay, maybe I can lay eggs in there. So fights were coming, and the other thing that can happen is there's no empty nest boxes, so they'll go in and kill the chicks from another hen so that they can take over that box and start laying in there. So in other words, we're in a very perilous time in the raising of these chicks. So what I did was, generally it's pretty safe to take the chicks, to leave the hens until the oldest chick is 25 days old, and then pull her and let the cock finish raising the babies. Because at 25 days, usually they haven't flipped yet. But all of my hens are flipping early this time because I had to start giving them some calcium because I had a bit of rickets coming on. And the calcium in their bloodstream, the elevated calcium levels in their bloodstream causes them to want to go start laying eggs again. So I pulled her, but I knew that the white recessive pied hen from over there was dancing around the outside of her box. So I came out here this morning. I pulled her after dark last night. So I came out here this morning, and Daddy up here was in the box, and the recessive pied hen was down here in front of the box with one foot on the bars, peering in, and then the yellow cock would jump out at her and try and drive her away. The cocks are not as territorial as the hens, so eventually what would have happened is she would have persisted and he would eventually abandon, and she would have killed the chicks to clear a place for her to lay more eggs. So I had to pull her. The weird thing about that is usually she's flipping so early. As you can see, her babies are really young still. I mean, really young. So this little one right here, I think he's like 10 days old or something. So I'm watching them to see if Daddy is feeding them, because Daddies usually take over feeding later. This little, they have food in their crops, but they had some this morning when I pulled their mom. So I don't know if he's fed them more or what. So really I have to wait until evening, because the parents fill up their babies in the evenings to make the, so they'll last through the night. So I have to come back this evening and see if he's got any food in there. So this is Sip and Bubba Jr.'s youngest baby, who was fostered, looking lovely. And this is Luna and Kyanite's youngest baby, who is a cobalt yellowface, and he's looking lovely. They were brought up by the white-faced blues up here, and she is the only hen that's still in here. So what happens if Daddy recessive pied is not feeding these young babies over here is easy. I put one of them in here and one of them in here and pull him, and that's that. So these babies are the oldest ones, and they look a lot different, but they're really only a few days apart. So these are Mist and what is it? Mist and Ocean's babies, and they're both normals, and this one is clearly a cobalt, maybe a violet, but I don't know if he could be a violet. Well, yeah, because Mist's father was a violet, so she could have a violet factor. And this one is a gray, just like Mommy. Okay, so things are going along. I've averted all disasters just by watching them carefully. And like I said, I'm watching these two little guys over here to make sure that Daddy is going to feed them tonight before they go to bed. The cocks, two things cocks don't do that hens do is hens sleep with the babies to keep them warm. So you'll see hens taking care of babies a lot when they're little pink things. And the cocks kind of slowly take over as the babies grow. And then eventually they stop sleeping in the nest with the babies. They just sleep outside of it and guard it. So these two would have to be able to go through the night without any parental warmth. But they do have down, and it's warm out. Hi, Diddy Boo. These are also Ocean and Mist babies. This one is clearly an opaline spangle, and this one seems to be a normal. Oh, and he's I don't know what he is. He might be a sky blue. I'm not sure. And this little guy, we don't know what color he is, but he's a normal. They won't have any adults sleep with them, but they have down. The nest boxes are warm. The weather is not too cold. They should be fine. It's all about whether Daddy is going to feed them without Mommy around. So we'll see. The only hen left in here is the white-faced blue. And this is a hen. I look at her and I say, so I got these birds from somebody off of Craigslist. He's a breeder, obviously. He had hundreds of them. And he just showed me a cage and said, those are all 6 months old. Well, after I got them, I started looking at them. I'm like, okay, this guy right here is a fully mature cock. He's probably well over a year old. And this hen is a mature hen. She's well over a year old. And you can tell behaviorally. And also, I think the recessive pied female was very young. She's done a lot of really kind of strange things. So I think she was probably a 3 or 4 month old chick when I got her, and only 6 months or less when I bred her. But maturity will come. And so the two hens that I pulled are down here, hanging out and getting over their little bad selves. You can't really see them because they're in a white cage, but this is the opaline violet and the recessive pied hen. Because they were getting ready to start fights, raid nests, etc. So, overall, I would say that this has not been too difficult. I also think that hen being ready to find another nest to lay in when she has chicks this young is an anomaly, and probably caused by the fact that she's a first-time breeder and probably too young to be bred. And otherwise, I think it went pretty well, although the whole point here is if I can get these guys to breed. Okay, so if they're going to take fosters are going to take as much husbandry and space as regular budgies, then there is no point in having them. I would just as soon have regular budgie parenting. If, on the other hand, I can get them to raise chicks with less husbandry and less space, which is what I'm doing here with this cage, then it becomes worth having them, okay? So, with 3 working couples in this cage, they're taking up too much space. I need 4, or forget it, I'll just break it down and put regular English budgies in individual breeding cages here instead. So, next time around, I need that other hen to claim her box and function. But other than that, I think we're doing pretty successful here. They're doing good. So, yeah. And it wasn't that hard to spot when to pull the hens. Like I said, if Daddy here fails this time, I can drop those 2 chicks in the other 2 nests, and the others will finish raising him. So I think we're pretty successful, but we need to try again when everybody's a little bit older and a little bit more established, and I think we'll be good. So that is the update on the foster situation.